Well, hold your horses there, partner. Venturing any further is like picking up a lady's undergarments. What's seen can't be unseen. So if you ain't ready to know who rides off into the sunset and who's left biting the dust in Unforgiven, best mosey on till you've seen it with your own eyes.
Hello, I'm Adam, and you are listening to Diabolical Evil Schemes Done Better, a podcast where four long-suffering friends dissect film's most dastardly schemes, then try to improve them. This week, we shall be competing to improve on the villainous plot of Oscar-winning Western Unforgiven. So... 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Diabolical is go. And let's get diabolical. Welcome to this week's episode. Boy, have we got a gunslinger of an episode for you. So let's get things underway with the opening question and introductions. What's your favourite film standoff, Mexican or otherwise?
Craig here. And I think my favourite film standoff is non-Mexican. And I'd probably change my mind if I thought about this on another day because there's so many great ones. But the one that first sprung to my mind was the standoff in Benny's World of Liquor from Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, yeah.
Where having shot and wounded the poor clerk, Seth decides to shoot out all the bottles from behind him of alcohol, set fire to a bog roll, and kill him in the most horrible way he could conceive of in the moment.
My enduring memory of that is when we overdubbed it and Gaz... Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon, the best, you handsome beast. You did the sheriff's voice for the overdub.
Sure did.
And do you remember what you said?
Nothing like a good leg up fart.
Sorry, was there a question? I missed it.
No, that was it. I remember what you
Okay.
said. Do you remember what you said? I remember it very well.
It was about frying his own cock in a frying pan, wasn't it?
I think my favourite part was, oh no, I've been shot.
Yeah.
Right through the head.
About 30 seconds after.
Yeah.
It was great. That was great. The best.
Hello, the best here. And my favourite standoff in a film is in a film I think we only mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Shaun of the Dead, in the climactic sequence in the Winchester when I think it's all four remaining characters are pointing guns at each other simultaneously, and it gets properly dramatic because they want to kill Sean's mum, and Simon Pegg by this point is weeping, and it's a proper good acting showcase for him there.
Yeah.
I think the film takes a nice turn to properly dark and dramatic, then pivots slightly, and yeah, it's a very memorable standoff for me.
Very good. Nice. Ben?
Hi there, Peril Pals. Ben here. And my favourite standoff is from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where Elsa is held at gunpoint by a Nazi general, and Indy drops his gun despite the protestations of his father. We find out there's the twist that Elsa is actually working with the Nazis.
And how did he know that?
It was in a script.
Because he'd already slept with her and she talks in her sleep.
Correct. And my favourite standoff comes from another Clint Eastwood film, but not The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. It's the outlaw Josie Wales, where he is just walks out of a general store and he's got two bags, or he's got his arm full of gear. And the snake oil salesman that he knows from earlier on in the film spots him and shouts, "It's Josie Wales!" And there's like 4 Union soldiers all around him, and they're all sort of dead uneasy. Look at him, and he's sort of eyeing everybody and spits on the ground and just says, "Are you going to pull those pistols or whistle Dixie?" And then just goes nuts, doesn't it? It's great.
Is that the bit where someone shouts, "It's Josie Wales," and then someone else goes, "What, you mean the outlaw?" And they go, "Yeah."
Hey, what, here? And they're like, yeah. What, right now? Yeah. Seriously? Yeah.
What's he doing here? He's buying 2 mules. Who for? Sister Sarah.
For 7 wives or 7 brothers.
What's you want him for? Transporting goods and services. Where to?
A dusty, barren landscape. A pen with a few hogs for tending. And with the trigger finger itchier than someone with itching powder in their underwear. Yeah or Mare gives us the 1,000-yard stare as it aims to give us a belly full of collective opinions on some choice films of 1992. So, can I have a yeah or mare for the following films, please? Patriot Games.
Yeah.
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 I have seen it, but I don't remember it. So I'll just say, I don't remember it.
Under Siege.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Been a long time since I've seen it. I remember
Yeah.
really liking it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine it still holds up.
It's got the line, "Nobody beats me in the kitchen," so it can't be that bad.
Yes, it has.
Tommy Lee Jones and Gary Busey are the bad guys, aren't they?
Yes.
You got the Tifa in that one. Yeah.
Two
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Universal Soldier.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jean-Claude Van
My
Damme's...
vague recollection of it. Yeah.
It's been a heck of a long time since I've last seen it.
Jean-Claude Van Damme's the guy that people are kind of reassessing now, aren't they? And he's sort of coming up a lot
Yeah.
more in people's
Is he?
esteem. So I think I'm going to
Yeah.
watch Time Cop soon and probably Universal Soldier as well.
Yeah, Time Cop I really enjoyed. Remember, I really wanted to get his shoes after watching it. Anytime I want to buy the merch of the person that's in it, that means it's probably good.
Because you wanted people to read between the lines.
Exactly, yeah.
And last but not least, Last of the Mohicans.
Yeehaw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Danny Day-Lewis, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's another one of the films to come out in the wake of Dances with Wolves. And the other one we're going to talk about is the film I'm picking tonight.
Yeah, I spoke about it on We Love Dad Movies podcast with Ewan.
Very good. Is that episode been released yet? Or
Yeah.
It's a good episode.
okay, there we go. Another podcast. Do you want to do a proper little shout? A little link there.
Listen to...
Just fucking listen to it.
Listen to me now. Listen to me now.
Fair enough.
No, We Love Dad Movies is a great podcast. Ewan, you may know from What Culture. His podcast that he does is We Love Dad Movies, and the premise is we talk about dad movies, whatever that means to you. Could be movies you watched with your dad, could be movies that you think of as dad type movies. And I chose Last of the Mohicans because my dad says it's one of his favourites.
Unforgiven is an American Western starring, directed, and produced by Hollywood titan Clint Eastwood. It tells the story of retired outlaw William Munny, played by Eastwood, who takes up one last job to help him make ends meet. In the town of Big Whiskey, a petty cowboy slashes a prostitute's face when she giggles at his little winky. After Sheriff Little Bill, played by Gene Hackman, refuses to hang or whip the perpetrators, the prostitutes pull their money and offer a $1,000 reward for the cowboy's death. On hearing about the reward, a plucky young fella named Schofield Kid tracks down Munny and offers to split the reward if he partners up with him. At first, Munny refuses the offer, but later on decides to catch up with the kid after roping in his old partner, Ned Logan, played by Morgan Freeman. Unforgiven was released in the US on the 7th of August 1992. went on to gross a healthy $159.2 million from a budget of $14.4 million. Unforgiven was critically acclaimed and honoured at the following year's Academy Awards, picking up Best Picture, Best Film Editing, Best Director for Clint Eastwood, and Best Supporting Actor for Gene Hackman. Eastwood lost out on Best Actor to Al Pacino for Scent of a Woman.
The scent of a woman, you see?
smells like pussy.
Just when I think I've had enough whiff, they smell me back in. She's got a great ass.
And it smells real bad.
What do you got? What do you got?
What do you got?
What do you got?
Before we get into what we think of the film, I have some rootin' questions for y'all. Big Boston Ben.
Howdy.
Everybody knows you love to say your words in an American way.
Sure do.
However, do you know what the old Western word of anti-phlegmatic means?
Yes, I do.
Go on then.
That wasn't the question.
Please enlighten us.
It was a yes or no answer.
No, it wasn't.
It's actually a technique whereby on a misty morning, your horse can't see very well. You just slowly rub your fingers over its eyes to clear the fog.
Ugh.
Do you know what? You're so close to the truth. It's unbelievable. It was actually an optional extra you could purchase on your horse so that you could ride through the mist or fog. So
There you
very
go.
important at the time, but it was automatic. So you didn't actually have to do that, but you were so close.
I like that you've turned your episodes into a misinformation service.
What do you mean?
Just spreading lies.
I hope you take that back.
Shan't.
How rude. How dare you? I demand satisfaction.
Well, can't reach you from there.
Okay. Well, seeing as you rudely interrupted then, rooting tooting Texas Craig, it took 20 years to get Unforgiven to the big screen. Why?
It's just like the film's really heavy, isn't it? Like the stuff itself. You take the film reels to the cinema, and just for authenticity's sake, Clint demanded that it be taken by donkey and not by the usual means of one of these fancy newfangled automobiles.
Oh, yeah.
I heard that he said that he wanted it taken by ass, and he wasn't talking about donkeys.
But some bloke got the wrong idea and just like kept clenching it between his cheeks and dropping the tins. So, I've got to go back and get them all now.
You tell that studio head he can take my film by ass.
Oh, that's illuminating. So thanks for letting us all know why it took so long, because I didn't know. So that's why I thought I'd ask you.
No, you know.
Rusty Sheriff's Badge, the best, the best, the best. During filming, the set was so muddy that a child extra and pony fell into the mud and were never seen again. True or false?
Child actor.
And a pony, yes. Both went into the mud, never came back out.
Yeah, because what had happened was everybody went off on their break and the child stayed behind to have a cigarette and he didn't want anybody to know about it. It was a boy actor smoking illicitly, and he thought that he'd keep the pony with him too so that he could confide in someone that he was a secret smoker. Knew the pony would keep the secret. They absentmindedly wandered onto the mud, happened to be sinking mud, similar to sinking sand, which is obviously something that played on all of our minds when we were younger. Didn't play as much of a role in our adult life as we thought it would. But for this young man, the sinking mud did play a large and unfortunate role in the end of his life.
That is absolutely correct, and everything that the best is just said is entirely accurate. Yeah, any scene that was featuring a child was cut from the film, and the dedicated to Sergio and Don at the end was dedicated to those that lost their lives, which is Sergio the pony and Donny Bread Bunderkin.
Of course.
So, yeah. So there we go. That's all wrapped up nicely, isn't it? So anyway, let's move on and put all that to bed as we dive into our thoughts on the film. Craig, did this film have you shouting, "Yee-haw," or spitting into spittoon with disgust?
Had me spitting into a spittoon with delight.
Oh, good.
I love Unforgiven. It's an old favourite. I haven't seen it for ages, so it was a nice chance to revisit an old favourite. I think, yeah, it's an understated visual treat. It's not showy. It's just right. It's kind of, it has a real authentic feel to it. Obviously has some great purposeful shots in it. The one that comes to mind would be when Morgan Freeman walks through a literal and physical doorway and his old rifles above his head waiting for him. I love the cast, particularly Richard Harris. He fucking rules in this. I think it's a gritty, modern reimagining of what a Western is. If you look at a lot of the Westerns from the 60s and 70s, a lot of them are kind of, they're a bit more knock around than this. They're kind of fun. There's nothing fun about this. He's, his life is pretty dire at the start, and then it doesn't get much better. The opportunity that comes up to him is a terrible opportunity. You get to go and kill some folks, and I love that the other people who are with him in his party, they don't want any party to that violence once they see it up close. Then they don't have a taste for it. Because of that, it earns the violence that you do see. You understand that, Munny is not a good man, and he just happens to be a man with a particular skill in a harsh frontier world. And of course, Gene Hackman, unbelievably good in this. I'm not surprised at all they got an Oscar for it.
No.
A sleazy, sinister character, but also like a really believable person. He doesn't ever make it a caricature for a second. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Unforgiven. I think it was a great choice.
Thank you very much. Pleased you like this so much. The best, the best, the best.
I think overall quite similar to Craig's thoughts. It's pretty much a perfect film. I'm not particularly fond of Westerns as a general rule. Don't dislike them, but I'm just not particularly fussed on them. Got no childhood memories of watching any Westerns whatsoever. Unforgiven may very well have been the first Western that I saw.
Bet you loved it when the opening scene was a guy banging a whore. You thought, Westerns! Bring me more Westerns!
This is where the action's at. But yeah, it's an interesting first experience with the Western to have, considering it's trading off Clint Eastwood's established Western persona of the hard man who does go around just killing indiscriminately, and it's playing off the weight of that, what it does to a person when they try and change who they are. And it still plays really well, and it did that on that first viewing when I was a teenager when I first saw it. And like me and yourself, Adam, we had a brief chat about this in person. It's funny, or perhaps it was after last week's recording. It's funny looking back now, thinking that Clint Eastwood was seen as being old in Unforgiven, because that's the main thing. That's why it really took 20 years to get to the screen, because he wanted to be old enough to have that weight and that history for the character. Whereas now he is properly goddamn ancient. He's like that photograph of Prince Philip in the car, isn't he? Now, Jesus. He and Morgan Freeman are both young men in this film, really, looking back at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is tremendous. And Gene Hackman, like Craig was saying as well, he's superb. And yeah, very, very unshowy direction, clean, crisp, some nice Western vistas that you'd like to see in Westerns. Not the best score, I would say. I'd like a bit of a punchier score, perhaps. But that's a minor quibble, really.
Yeah.
I give it 5 out of 5 on my letterbox.
Ooh.
I shall,
Very nice.
in all likelihood, be watching the commentary track soon.
Ooh.
You're lovely. Right, Ben, I think you said this was the first time you watched this film?
Yeah, I think it must have been. I thought I'd seen it before, and maybe I have, but I've forgotten about it. But it felt like a first watch. And yeah, I'm in agreement. There was a lot to love about this film. Yeah, the performances, strong across the board. Gene Hackman, a worthy Oscar winner, I think. And it was really nice to see a more vulnerable side of Clint Eastwood, because my enduring memory of him is obviously the old Westerns, but then Every Which Way But Loose with the orangutan. And I seem to remember him getting out-acted by the orangutan, which is not an insult. It was a very clever orangutan.
Yeah.
The standouts for me were the locations, as Gaz mentioned, the vistas and the cinematography. I thought it was, the best. You have an unerring presence that makes me feel safe and warm.
Oh, you're too kind.
And I think Craig also mentioned the fact that it's not showy. It just does what it has to and really suits the tone of the film. I enjoyed that all the way through.
This might be thinking too deeply, but obviously Gene Hackman's character in this movie kind of builds a very simple lean-to, like a porch on his house. And that's kind of what the direction's like for me. It's like a really good solid frame with a nice view to the vistas, like Gareth mentioned, like the best mentioned earlier when he was showing us his big cock.
As I'm wont to do.
Two gun, the best.
Like a young John Barrowman I am.
And Clint's direction has been much like that kind of throughout his directing career. You know, $1 Million Baby, pretty similar with its approach to fight scenes and stuff. He's more interested, clearly, when you look at the films he's taken, in kind of complex characters who live in grey spaces, which I think this film is an exemplar of, as we're going to debate about which of the characters are good guys and which are bad guys. There's no white hats and black hats in this.
Yeah, that was something I really liked about it, was that there were no clear-cut bad guys or good guys.
Yeah.
And I think because that's what it must have been like in those days. Just everyone has to be somewhat of a bastard to survive.
I can't agree with Clint being a bad actor in fucking Every Which Way But Loose, though. I think he's great.
I didn't
in that.
say he was bad. I just said the orangutan was good.
He's got great comic sensibility. He plays the gruff straight man really well. I was desperate at the time for Clint to play Judge Dredd before they cast Sly.
Yeah.
Because, like, Judge Dredd lives in his apartment building's called Rowdy Yates, which is Clint's Rawhide character's name. And I was like, how can it not be Clint? That jaw is clearly modelled on him.
Gotcha.
And they were saying he was too old, but I wanted Dredd to be old and grizzled.
I think Carl Urban had a better chin for Dredd.
Oh, Carl Urban. I thought you said Will Carling, the rugby guy who shagged Princess Diana.
The rugby guy who shagged Princess Diana. That'll be on his epitaph.
That should be the quote for the episode as well.
Here lies Will Carling, the rugby guy who shagged Princess Diana.
The only real downside for me was the pacing. There felt like there was a bit of a sag in the middle, which is why I presume you get that sudden cut from William Munny talking to Delilah, and then suddenly they're at the Gulch shooting on the cowboys. Because you imagine there'd have been a scene or two in there, but they realised it was dragging a little bit.
I love a slow western.
Yeah, it was fine. It was a very minor niggle. So overall, I give it a, hey there, partner. Why not mosey down yonder to that there moving picture emporium and watch this son of a bitch?
What's that?
That's out of Yeehaw!
Wow.
That's the highest accolade I think you've ever given. So, yeah, can't say better than that.
That's the same score, fundamentally, that you gave to, let's say, Ace Ventura.
Yeah, probably.
As for me, I'm a big fan of Westerns, and that's thanks to my dear old ma. God rest her soul. I think this is a fantastic way to sort of end the golden era of Westerns, in a way, depicting the twilight of the old gunslingers and the old lawmen, and how like we've already said, the lines between them become blurred. Sometimes the lawmen are more like the bad guys, and the gunslingers are now sort of coming to the rescue of the damsels and stuff like that. Superb performances from everybody involved. I love the Schofield Kid.
Yeah.
And when plays the tough kid all the way through, convincingly, unconvincingly, he plays this false bad guy. And then when he comes apart towards the end, wonderful. Gene Hackman is like the sheriff who has this personality that can switch on a sixpence. He's so charming and then business lies and menacing at the same time. There's lots of light-hearted content and jokes and stuff to keep you laughing through it, whether it's Clint falling over, Richard Harris's sanctimonious behavior and
his comeuppance.
Yeah, and the payoff with Little Bill being a bad carpenter.
Yeah.
Little things like that get forgotten in some of the more serious movies, the comedy in life, and I think this has that comedy that runs through it. Obviously, it's aside to the main thread. I love that this is the film that sort of relaunched Clint's career as a serious actor and director. It was the end of the Dollar trilogy, wasn't it? This was like the additional film to that. So William Munny is the man with no name,
Right.
essentially, from those movies, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, For a Few Dollars More and A Fistful of Dollars.
Yeah, like the best was saying, it certainly trades on that idea that the man with no name has to contest with his actions, and he, as a vigilante, is he's almost like a cipher in that trilogy, and like a race, he kind of drifts in and out. But in this, he kind of has to face up to the consequences of his lifestyle.
And we find out his name.
They call him the man with no name, William Munny.
He is so money, and he doesn't even know it. Or at least no one else does.
Like we just said before, there's lots of bad men in this film. I made this sort of comparison in the past with Jaws, but this is has all the hallmarks of a monster movie, because we get glimpses of a real monster all the way through it by his own admissions of his dark past and things like that. And obviously he keeps saying, "Ain't like that anymore. That's not me. That's not what I do. Those days are behind me," and all that kind of stuff. But then obviously the trigger of Ned being killed, as soon as he finds out, he grabs the magic potion, and Dr. Jekyll turns into Mr. Hyde, and he knows that's what he needs to get the job done. And that's when we see just who William Munny is.
What I take from that is that, not that he becomes that guy again. I believe him when he says he's left that behind. But I think what happens when he gets drunk is he has the confidence to front that he's still that guy. And when he tells them, any man who's out here, when I come out, I'll kill you, and then I'll kill your wife, and I'll kill your children. I don't believe that. I think he's just saying that to sound like a badass. The things he's done in his youth are genuinely, reprehensible, and there's clearly no redemption for him. But I think in this phase of his life, he's not becoming that bad guy again. He's just a bad motherfucker. He's not a bad intentioned person. Whereas I think Lil Bill is. I think he's a piece of shit.
Why? Isn't he just trying to protect the town that he has jurisdiction over?
Yeah, that's the way I saw it.
No, he's trying to protect himself and the power that he has in the town. If he really cared about the people in the town, he'd do more for them. But most of the stuff he does seems to be for his benefit. And he's just completely morally bankrupt.
This is what I said earlier about the lines and the becoming blurred between lawman and outlaw.
Yeah.
Because Little Bill lives by his rules, and what he says goes, and everybody else is scared of him because they know he's lived through the same times as William Munny, and he's worked in tough towns and things like that. So he's used to getting his own way now, isn't he? And he knows he's calm under fire and things like that.
By giving him a badge, really what they've given him is a license to be a cunt. Because look at the way he treats prisoners.
Yeah.
He's not a lawman in the sense of a bringer of justice. He is just a corrupt official with the power to be the bully that he always was, but with like an official blanket guarding him from, most forms of retribution.
I see him more as a flawed man who doesn't know that he's flawed, who is trying to protect the town, like the house that he's building. He can't see how flawed that house is. It's pouring water through. It's porous when it shouldn't be. And I think that's him. He's giving off this air of being in control. He knows what to do to deter the gunslingers. But as soon as English Bob gets in with his hidden firearms, he completely loses control and beats the shit out of him. And he probably would have killed him if there would have been less witnesses around.
Yeah,
I dare say. But I'd struggle to call him an out-and-out bad guy. Obviously, he does kill Ned.
Accidentally, apparently.
Apparently, yeah. We don't see it.
How intentional that is, it's hard to say with it being off-screen.
Nonetheless, he is whipping him, torturing a confession out of him.
Yeah, that's bad, obviously. But also, Ned was an assassin.
Well, he wasn't because he didn't do it, did he?
Well, he went out with the intention, right?
Yeah.
No one was clean, right? No one was a clean, goody.
Well, have you seen Minority Report? We don't jail people for their intentions.
Yeah, you do. Have you ever heard of conspiracy to murder?
Yeah, that's it.
The flip side of that is I agree, and I think it's a very good observation of, that he's like the house, that he doesn't see the flaws in himself. The fact that he doesn't know he's a piece of shit doesn't absolve him of being one.
No.
No, it just makes it less clear cut, right?
Talked about English Bob briefly as well, because he is obviously, after Little Bill mentions about the things he's done, he's a bad guy, and you see him popping the two Chinese blokes walking down the street as well. So he's another bad guy, essentially, that's dispatched.
He's openly racist, isn't he, towards the Chinese?
I think he's more like a real, like a slimy piece of work, but he's also well past his prime. I don't think he's a legitimate threat.
If he ever had it. Yeah, if he ever had a prime, because his myth is completely dismantled in jail by Little Bill.
Yeah.
He's a great character, isn't he? Do you know who else was in the running for English Bob?
Patrick McGowan, I'm going to say.
English Bob Hoskins.
It's good to talk.
Let's say Surrey and McCallum.
Jeremy Irons.
Let's see that.
Okay, yeah, that would have been good.
Isn't Irons a nickname for guns? So that would have been good, wouldn't it?
Wow, yeah.
Very fitting. Spooky. Whoa, I got shivers.
Apparently, Clint Eastwood actually rang him to offer him the role, and according to mythology anyway, that he was actually watching Pale Rider at the time, and he thought it was a wind-up.
Jeremy, it's Clint. Do you want to play a guy called English Bob in my new Western?
No, it was Richard Harris that was watching Pale Rider.
Oh, okay.
Because he's like a fan of Clint Eastwood.
And then Richard Harris was like, "Is this a wind-up? I saw you high-fiving a chimpanzee."
Hello, Richards Harris here, because his real name is Richards.
Richards Harris.
Yeah, Richards Harris.
Bonker.
Do we want to talk about any more baddies or bad men, or do we want to crack on with favourite scenes?
Should we mention the bad guy that we've selected for the episode, or?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think we should. How about Skinny Dubois?
Since the first time hearing of Dubois.
Yeah, his name's Skinny Dubois, yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, Skinny Dubois.
He's obviously a reprehensible character and, essentially a pimp, but he doesn't have a lot of agency in this. So considering him an antagonist, I thought was a bit of a, a stretch, but.
I think he's guilty by association.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but does that make him the antagonist?
Nope.
At the start, when he's the one that puts the gun on the back of the cowboy's head, you think, okay, here's the good saloon.
Right,
keeper,
yeah.
Come to rescue his girls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when he gets downstairs, he says nothing to Little Bill. The only thing he says is that this is a contract. So he's clearly out to, and then when he's getting the ponies, he's so gleeful, and the girls are right there. And he's just like, doesn't give a shit about them.
No,
and and it really, I know
he's a slime ball.
The obvious, the credited bad guy, I guess every 95% of people would say he's probably Little Bill.
Yeah.
But I think Skinny is he's trading off other people's misery.
Yeah.
And he does it so badly, really, the worst possible way.
I think it's clear from that interaction, though, that he knows that Little Bill doesn't give a shit about those women either. And he doesn't.
I don't think if Skinny had put up a fight or made a stand for his girls and said, "Now, hang on a minute, Little Bill, these guys need to be whipped at the minimum," or, that it wouldn't have cost him anything. And he still might have gone to ponies or something.
Potentially, yeah.
So I just feel that, he was in a position there to influence Little Bill.
I took it more like he understood that if he had made any kind of demands of Little Bill, like, you should do this or you should do that, Little Bill would have been like, "Who the fuck do you think you're talking to?" And wouldn't have given him anything.
I think he might have persuaded him. So that might form part of my plan later on. So we'll have to see, won't we?
All right.
How convenient that you think it might have
Yes, I think it would. Yeah. Right, favourite sequences, the best.
Oh, well, it's been mentioned briefly earlier on. Clint's pratfalling during his
Ah,
opening scene
yeah.
when he's trying to round up his hogs. He's just constantly falling over. It's like Sideshow Bob or something.
Yeah.
As soon as he touches a pig, what?
And it's actually him doing it
Um,
as well, isn't it? That's good. You know, I know he's
Yeah.
only like 62, I think, or 61 at the time.
Really?
But you know,
Okay.
it's not bad going for. I mean, he looks in good shape and stuff, but still,
Hmm.
60 was much older in the 90s.
yeah, it was, wasn't it?
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah. That sequence also kind of sets up the character very economically because it has a very clear visual signal of Clint looking back and forth between the Schofield Kid, offering him to come out and get this bounty, and his kids. So his old life and his new life. He's looking back and forth. He's feeling the push and pull. Which way is he going to go? It sets everything up so economically, instantly in his first scene. It's very, very nicely done.
And the pratfalls, beyond being funny, serve a narrative purpose as well, because you instantly understand that he's kind of a man past his prime, and you know that, and him
Yeah.
struggling to get on the horse and everything, and struggling to
Every single time.
shoot the can. The moment when he goes in and gets the shotgun and fucks the can reminds me a bit of Daniel Craig pursuing the parkour guy through that solid wall. If I can't finesse kill this can, I'm gonna kill the shit out of it.
But then that comes back in the final shootout, doesn't it?
Right.
Ben.
Well, since I just brought it up, I suppose I'll stick with it. It was the final shootout.
Yeah.
It was just handled so well. Every bit of violence felt earned and with a weight to it. It
Yeah.
didn't feel cheap and like you might have seen in an older Western where people are falling off roofs, clutching their heart every 4 minutes. It was you felt every single kill. It was pretty brutal, but it was incredibly executed as a piece of cinema.
Craig.
Yeah, on a similar note, the scene where they finally catch up with Bunting in the canyon and shoot him in the gut, all the times that they hesitate to shoot him, all the times that they miss,
Yeah.
the fact that they let the other guys take him water when he's crying out for water, it almost had to pause it for a minute because it was just horrendous, isn't it? It doesn't let you look away from it. Like you're saying, it's not a guy getting shot and falling off a banister on a saloon. This is a guy who's been shot in the gut and he knows he's dying and they can't do anything for him.
It's so like real life, isn't it? That, you know, that's how it'd probably play out. You know, they feel that guilt, don't they? You can see, and then he's like, oh, fuck. Yeah, and it's totally agree. It's a wonderful, if yet, you know, emotionally shredding scene, and that kind of leaves me. I thought somebody else would pick this, but I personally love all those scenes. They're all great, and I've already talked about some of them. But mine is when Little Bill and W.W. Beauchamp are in the prison. He's basically dictating his memoir now to him, and talking about English Bob, and then saying what makes a good gunfighter or somebody's fast isn't necessary. And then obviously later on, that's the foreshadowing of the final showdown, where throughout the film, all his Little Bill's deputies are shitting themselves every time they see somebody with a gun. One of them's like, it's more or less with the shotgun, isn't he, or a rifle? And the rest of them are all wide-eyed, thinking they're going to have to do anything. And Little Bill's always the one that comes in, talks a talk, and produces the goods all the time, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It's a great scene, that one, anyway. That especially where he tells WW to give English Bob the pistol. Whew, flipping heck.
The Duck of Death. I just remembered he calls him the Duck of Death, doesn't he?
Just on that, my other little favourite scene, very, very minor, but when English Bob's leaving and he's got his bent gun, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And he drops his accent as well, doesn't he? He's like,
Yeah.
oh, you're
He's
all
got- yeah.
buggers, you are. I hate you all.
fucking arsehole.
I know you, but
I hate ya. Fuck off, you knobbers, ya.
Favorite lines, Ben?
My favourite line is just 2 words, and I'm going to use it a lot for the rest of my life. Free one.
You want a free one? You can say that to me now later on.
Can I have a free one?
Want a free one? You want a free one?
Hey, were you married? There's no such thing as a free one. Am I right?
Hey, all right, fellas. Hey,
Oh,
hey.
Craig.
There's a few to choose from, but I'll go with I was lucky in the order. I've always been lucky when it comes to killing folks.
Yeah, great. The best.
I have just clocked Little Bill's dying words when he's on the floor. He just says, I don't deserve to die like this. I was building a house.
Mm.
It's good. It's good.
William Munny says it's got nothing to do with deserving.
Yeah, it deserves
Yeah.
nothing to do with
See you in hell, William Munny. Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Fuck. Yeah. And my favorite line again is from the final showdown, and it's where he says, "You money out of Missouri, killer of women and children." That's right. I've killed women and children. Killed just about everything that walks or crawled at one time or another. And I'm held to kill you, Little Bill, what you did to Ned.
it's good.
Yes.
I think the big line from this, the one that like everybody remembers, is it's a hell of a thing killing a man. You take away all he's got
Mm.
and all he's ever got.
Even his soup.
Even his soup. And all the soups he had coming. Soups he had when he was a babby. Soups he was going to have as an old man.
And I'm including bisques in there.
And consomme, you better believe.
After working girl Delilah has her face slashed, Sheriff Little Bill refuses to immediately punish the cowboys, and to rub salt into her wounds, owner of the establishment, Skinny Dubois, is set to be the only one who benefits from her disfigurement. Skinny is to receive several ponies in the way of compensation for the damage of his property. Unfortunately for Skinny, this prompts the girls to take matters into their own hands, and they offer a $1,000 reward for the death of the cowboys. This triggers the events that lead to the death of the cowboys, Little Bill, and Skinny himself. Craig, as we've already discussed at length, maybe he's the runner-up for being the worst human being in this film, but Skinny is clearly looking out for number one. What do you think of his plan?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like he has, again, to me, much agency or much of a plan. I think he kind of works within the parameters in which Little Bill allows him to. He doesn't really do much to prevent what's coming from coming. Like a weasel, he goes and gives Bill the information, hoping that Bill will take some action. You know, he says, oh, you know, the girls are going to get some money together. They're going to bring some bad guys here. Well, see ya. Like he's letting a dog off the leash. But beyond that, he doesn't really seem to have any thoughts about how he's going to prevent this from happening himself.
The best?
Yeah, I'd go along with that. But just to say that his kind of weasel nature does make him one of the more despicable characters in the film. Yeah, a good comparison point would be E.B. Farnham in the series Deadwood.
Yeah.
Who never uses violence himself, but he's just a disgusting little bastard who manipulates things in his favour.
Yeah.
I'd say that Skinny Dubois is kind of an ancestor of that character. And yeah, he could go about his task in a more cunning way, which we'll all come to. Yeah, it's not great in the film, but yeah, he definitely is an unsavoury character worthy of being called villain.
I was going to mention Deadwood when you said you didn't like westerns, because that I also know that you really like Deadwood.
I do.
You liked Ed Wood as well, didn't you?
All the Woods.
Edward Woodward?
Yeah.
Cabin in the Woods?
Yeah, Cabin in the Woods.
Woody Woodpecker?
Woody Woodpecker. Greenwood Forest Park.
Yeah.
Sherwood Forest.
Woody Harrelson?
Yeah.
The woods outside Lee Delamere service station?
Woodrow Wilson.
Ben, how does he score in the old broccoli system?
He's scoring low, and he's done now. He's a little snitch. He's a little vile snitch who's gleefully rubbing his greasy paws together, getting himself some ponies. So he scores 1 refried broccoli floret
Oh dear. One.
that he found
Yeah.
out on a prairie somewhere.
Very good. Yeah, I would agree with all your sentiments. He definitely, I think, all of the town, and particularly, the people who shouldn't, his deputies, rely on Little Bill for everything. He's always going to be there to rescue them, and obviously, they don't think for a second that somebody with bigger trousers is going to show up, and he does. So, more fool him.
Oh, he's got bigger trousers.
He's got. Have
Look
you
out.
seen the size of his trousers? Ah!
This is part of the show where we get off our horse and drink our milk and compete for peril points. In the final showdown, Alone Money confronts Little Bill and his deputies in Skinny's saloon. Against the odds, Money's cold-hearted, steady hand enables him to vanquish Little Bill, a large portion of his deputies, and Skinny himself. All because he wouldn't stand up for Delilah and the rest of his girls. For shame. But can we, as Mr. Skinny Dubois, devise a scheme to keep those wretched women in check? The best, the best, the best. How are you gonna do it?
My pappy was barkeep at Big Whiskey Saloon. So was his pappy, and his pappy before him. Many was the time I would sit in his lap as he regaled me with tales of wiping down the bar in the saloon, serving drinks to the fellas in the saloon, dragging the dead bodies out after the latest shootout inside the saloon, and emptying the spittoon that sat in the corner of the saloon. Now my girls are having a moment of what you might call unrest on account of Delilah getting cut up. They's unsatisfied with Little Bill's proposal of 7 ponies as recompense, and so it falls to old fucknuts here to play peacemaker. And so it hits me. Hits me square in the droopers. Everyone has a special relationship with their daddy. So I need to bring the ghost daddies to Wyoming, to Little Whiskey, perhaps bringing with them some delicious brown sauce. They'll be oh so happy to see them, unaware of what I done. See, in the days prior to one or more Pappy's arrival in town, I'll go see Little Bill and tell a little white lie that there's bounty hunters come to town in search of them that did Delilah wrong. This will surely send Little Bill into a bloodthirsty rage. When the Pappies arrive, I shall make nice and shake their hands whilst planting a hand cannon on their person, that when Little Bill asks them if they're armed and they say no, they in fact are. Little Bill would then beat the unfortunate paterfamilias either half or fully to death before kicking them out of town. At that point, I shall reveal my gambit to the girls and tell them that any time I catch word of them planning any kind of vengeance, I'll send for the next Pappy. They will assuage to my will and let sleeping dogs lie for fear of what will happen to their makers.
Okay, so frame the daddies. Frame the
Yes.
daddies.
Yes, yes.
You reckon Western hookers have a good relationship with their paps?
I'm glad you asked that. It was in my mind, but I didn't want to vocalize it.
Yeah, they'll invest their money wisely, send it back to their parents, like good kids do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They write letters.
Yeah, they did in those days, that's right.
Yeah,
Hmm.
they did. Telegrams.
Dear Father, today I fucked nobleman come in from East Pawnee. He had a real fancy shave and it felt
Whoa.
good.
I would say instead of encouraging the girls to be happy in their work and to not raise any more hell, they might actually take out the contract on Skinny himself
Yeah.
and say, come and bump him off. And then,
Yeah. Or tell Lil Bill, the guy you just killed is my daddy. And then he'll figure out the rest for himself. What? Your daddy's a bounty hunter? No.
Yeah, but then Skinny just spin him a shaggy dog tail. He'd say, yeah, he is. And Bill would be all like, well, if you say so.
I just got to go over here and clean some glasses. See ya.
Spit in those glasses and rub them with your filthy rag. Yeah.
I don't know why, but the image I'm getting of all of these girls' dads is quite a short man, quite a bushy beard, a couple of missing teeth, a cowboy hat with the front pushed up back. I'm thinking like the traditional gold prospector. I'm thinking they're all traditional gold prospectors, which I don't think Little Bill's going to think is a threat.
That's not the image I'm getting at all. The image I'm getting is, come on, Skinny. Butterscotch, butter gin. What you got going on here in this saloon? Daddy, I want a golden horse. All right, sweetheart.
All right, Skinny, how much it cost? Name your price.
I like it in principle. It's got some holes, but...
Yeah, it's got some holes. But, so Swiss cheese and we still eat it.
The accent was good.
Yeah, it was fun. Like a pair of fishnet stockings.
That's weird you just said that.
Oh, okay.
I was hoping somebody else was going to do an accent as well, so I feel like 50% of us at least are definitely guaranteed.
75 at least.
Contest. Oh, 75 now. Whoa.
Oh, pressure's on. The remaining 25%.
We're going to see if it's going to be 100%, because the next one to go is Ben.
Under the dim, flickering lights of the saloon in Big Whiskey,
Yes.
Skinny Dubois stands behind the bar, polishing glasses with an old rag when the girls approach him. We want justice, they say. And if you don't help us, we'll find our own way. As the girls stand waiting for a reply, Skinny excuses himself to check on something in the back. Moments later, he returns wearing only a bolo tie and fishnet stockings. Then he nonchalantly continues serving the drinks. Confused, the girls try to steer the conversation back to their request, only for Skinny to interject with, "Did you know that armadillos are the only other creatures beside humans that get leprosy?" This random fact leaves the girls puzzled and speechless, while Skinny basks in the distraction. As they attempt once more to discuss the matter at hand, Skinny suddenly begins to mime, trapping himself in an invisible box, then pretending to tug on an invisible rope. Naturally, the saloon's patrons laugh and clap while the girls begin to forget their cause in the face of such splendid entertainment. The girls try again to bring the focus back, but Skinny bursts into a moving rendition of the Ballad of Big Whiskey, complete with exaggerated fist pumps and foot stomping. Oh, I love Big Whiskey, where the nights are long and frisky, where good times come with a sarsaparilla that's flaming and quite risky. With old Skinny tending bar, you'll laugh until you're tipsy, just listening to them wild tales of the town we call Big Whiskey. The saloon erupts into song, with patrons joining the chorus, and the girls, caught up in the moment, finding themselves dancing along. As the song fades and the girls prepare to make another attempt, Skinny reaches under the bar and produces a small, crudely made puppet resembling a cowboy. In a squeaky voice, the puppet argues with Skinny about the merits of justice, leaving the saloon in stitches. "Well, I reckon the best revenge is a life well lived," the puppet declares, as Skinny makes it dance across the bar. Skinny continues the various distractions until either the girls forget or Delilah heals completely, whichever comes first.
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you very much for doing a Western style accent.
Yeah, could I ask you just to read the very first part again, up to the part where they say they're going to do it their own way or whatever they say?
Under the dim flickering lights of the saloon in Big Whiskey, Skinny Dubois stands behind the bar, polishing glasses with an old rag when the girls approach him. "We want justice for Delilah," they say. "And if you don't help us, then we'll find our own way."
Then he waddled away, waddle, waddle, till the very next day. Bum, 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 ba-dum.
You got any grapes?
Just that little rhyme is all I could think about for ages.
Do you want the rest of the facts that I've written?
Go on then. Yeah.
Did you know that bananas are berries, but strawberries aren't? Makes you think twice about your fruit salad, don't it? A snail can sleep for up to 3 years at a time. Wish I could catch up on sleep like that after a busy night at the saloon. Penguins can jump as high as 6 feet off the ground. That's like a tuxedo gentleman hopping over a bar stool.
I was going to ask if you thought that Skinny would be able to keep this up until Delilah heals, but clearly the answer is yeah.
Oh, he's fully loaded.
He's got a pocketbook full of fascinating facts.
Just not going to let those girls corner him on the subject, is he?
Right. But what I would say is, in the film, they don't really need Skinny, do they? They don't need his approval to do it. They just do it without him. So it doesn't really matter.
I got no argument there.
They might actually just eventually just get fed up and just go, we're just going to hire somebody anyway, and just pretend like we're still going along with his distraction.
Strawberry Alice, will you stop trying to tell Skinny about our plan and just do the plan? It's been 3 days.
I just assumed there was a scene cut from it to help with the pacing.
Okay, Craig, you're up to bat.
In order to convince Strawberry Alice and the girls that hiring some cowboys to kill Quick Mike and Davy Bunting is a bad idea, Skinny is going to need to show them how his pigpen is way strong. And by his hand, I, of course, mean his prose style. The arrival of Beauchamp in town as the biographer of the unreliable narrator English Bob has opened Skinny's eyes to the power of the written word. Why, if a man of culture and learning such as Beauchamp himself can so easily be given the woolly eye by a flim-flamming charlatan such as the likes of Bob, surely a bunch of tuppenny whores can be convinced by a well-written volume that they needn't hire nobody on account of the deed is already did, being that Quick Mike is already dead these 3 days hence, and Davy Bunting with him. Or, at least, that's what they'll read. For sly old Skinny will pen that novella with his own hand what documents their tragic end. Then Skinny will hire a well-dressed fat man to ride into town and proffer that book for all who would be interested to read about how them men met their maker. And Skinny won't take no praise for them words, 'cause that tubby man of sartorial grandeur would tell it was him what written it, based off of the account of several eyewitnesses who saw that same Quick Mike and the Bunting fella raped to death by a grizzly bear, and
Jesus
then
Christ.
ate by that same hirsute ursine, leaving no bones nor blood behind for evidence, having variously crunched, chewed, and lapped those up. And since Skinny mercifully sent a letter warning the real Quick Mike and Davy Bunting to hit the trail out of town and never look back, lest they wanted to contend with some hired killers, them whores finding not hide nor hair of them micro-peckered fucking bungers, would have no cause to doubt what they read, and that would be the matter settled.
Good. And another fine Western accent there.
That was the gold miner I was...
That was the old prospector.
Yeah.
So I had 2 questions, but I think you may have answered both of them.
Well, that was my aim.
Or maybe one of them I answered for myself. One was that, can Skinny Dubois write? But then I remember we do see him with the contract, which means he can at least read. So it's fair to say he could probably write.
Yeah.
And then my other question was, well, won't those boys just come back looking for a good time? But Skinny's written a letter and sent them on their way.
Exactly right.
Well done.
What else has he done? Has he given them any sort of incentive to go and never come back?
Well, his, strong prose style, he's warned them in a way that when they read the letter, they'll be suitably convinced that there's a danger posed to them if they stick around, that the girls will hire somebody to kill them, and eventually somebody will be up to the task because the reward will remain over their heads, the bounty, unless they are believed to be dead. And he'll outline to them what his plan is to convince them. Beats sitting in a cabin, walking out to the toilet.
He could have dressed as a bear and collected the reward as well. He'd have been $1,000 richer.
Yeah.
What happens if those fellas, I reckon they're definitely the types who any saloon they see, they're going to get absolutely rat-arsed. And the next saloon they go to, they get rat-arsed. I think they're going to possibly spill the beans about this subterfuge and what would happen if word got back to Big Whiskey about this subterfuge.
These men who read this letter and decided to leave town on the strength of the letter, then went to another town and got drunk. And because they were drunk, they told whoever would listen about this whole plot with the book that faked death and everything. I simply don't believe they would.
That's fair enough. Any further questions? Now she'll give my horse a little kick around the ribs and yee-haw it home. Skinny Dubois is the name, and I'm gonna tell you the story of how I came to run the most successful saloon this side of the Rocky Mountains. I gotta tell you, it don't come easy, but like they say, nothing worth having does. Some years ago, a certain cowboy took offense at Delilah giggling at his little pecker, and he done gone and took a knife to her face. Cut her up so bad she's barely worth a dime to me. I was the one that stopped him that night. Before he damn killed her, I put a pistol to the back of his head and blew his brains out of his goddamn eye socket. I was protecting my investment. This was my business, nothing personal. What if all the damn cowboys thought they could treat my horse like steers, branding or cutting them as they please? That's what I told little Bill. If we let one damn asshole, one lousy sub-bitch, think he's above the law and common decency, hell, the whole town of Big Whiskey is in jeopardy. Little Bill weren't too happy, but he also doesn't like men of low character. After he gave the other cowboy a whipping, he told him that let this be a warning to any folk wishing to bring devilry to Big Whiskey, that a man has a right to defend himself and his property in the face of violence. My whores are my damn property. Although they ain't the best pleased at that, they sure were obliged those cowboys got what was coming to them. There on in, my saloon took off. Delilah cleaned about the place. I even took on more whores and the building over the street to accommodate my booming business. Let the good times roll.
So what did he do?
He killed Quick Mike.
Yeah, it's just a cat's whisker between him doing that and not doing that. So I just decided to push him just over the edge because he's obviously when he goes downstairs, he's so affronted that his property has been damaged. So I thought, what's the next step?
Yeah, okay. Well, it's a pretty good performance, I'll give you that.
Thank you very much. You've all been wonderful with your Western accents, I've got to say. I was well chuffed. I'm very pleased that we've all done
Yeah, that was very pleasing.
them. By hooky, those schemes were rambunctiously diabolical. So, in summary, we had the best, Frame the Daddy's plan, Craig's fake news plan, Ben's Skinny's distraction plan, and my righteous skinny plan. But there can only be 1, 2, 3 or 4 taking the points this week. Craig, will you please reveal who you have voted for?
Well, if there's one thing I find sexy, it's fishnet stockings. It's the best, etc.
Did he have fishnet stockings in his plan?
No, I described his plan as fishnet stockings.
Ah, I see.
I was going to
Sexy
say.
but full of holes, but sexy nonetheless.
Ben, can you please reveal who you have voted for?
I, too, have voted for TB3.
Oh my lord.
For the best, can you please reveal who you have voted for?
Well, I voted for what I considered to be the most delightful image conjured in my mind's eye, which was Skinny using a puppet, and so I voted for Ben.
Yay! Hoot, 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 hoot.
And I have voted for, similarly, Puppet Plan, which is Ben.
Ooh.
So the best. What on earth has that done to the leaderboard?
We got a couple of changes this week. We have a new leader. In first place with 14 points is Ben.
Oh!
Yes. Excelsior.
Second place with 13 points is Craig.
Lucky 13.
Ooh.
Third place with 11 points is the best.
Oh.
And bringing up the rear is this week's host, Adam, with 10 points.
Ooh.
The best. You are picking next week's film. And what are we going to be watching?
We're sticking with A Tale of Vengeance, similar in theme to Unforgiven. Very, very different in execution there, as we're travelling to beautiful South Korea and Park Chan-wook's calling card of Old Boy.
Oh, God.
Oh. Oh.
Okay, so next week we shall be watching Old Boy. And that about wraps things up for this week. We are available across the socials on @DiabolicalPod, so why not talk back at us? Maybe suggest a film you'd like us to cover. You never know, you might even get a reply. So until next week, dear listeners, when confronted by superior numbers, an experienced gunfighter will always fire on the best shot first.
Oh, I love big whiskey, where the nights are long and frisky, where good times come with a sarsaparilla that's flaming and quite risky. With old skinny tending bar, you'll laugh until you're tipsy. Just listen to them wild tales of the town we call Big Whiskey. Yee-haw, Big Whiskey, where the whiskey flows like mystery, where Skinny rules the bar with antics that'll soon be part of history. In a land of lawless thugs, his humor cuts through the misery. So give a hearty cheer for our dear old Big Whiskey.
Unforgiven is an American Western starring, directed, and produced by Hollywood titan Clint
Eastwood.
Eastwood.
I'd have been more convinced if perhaps he'd drunk his drink too fast and he hiccuped, and that made him pull the trigger.
Drank a can of Fanta, then ran upstairs to see what the commotion was. Went, oh, Jesus.
What's with all the commotion? What's with all the commotion?